Hey there, Seth by the Realtor here. In this video, I'm going to talk about painting choices that buyers love. Now, if you are thinking about selling your home, you probably thought, gee, maybe I should paint my house. And I'm guessing that the reason you are wondering that is because many people, many realtors especially, will tell you that painting a house does provide one of the surest and easiest returns on investment in terms of preparing your home for the market. But the question is that really true in all cases? And obviously, we can think of some cases where that would not be true. Like if you just painted your house last year and the paint is in good condition, would you see any return on the investment if you were to repaint your house? And the answer is maybe. It depends on what the paint looks like right now. I mean, even if it's in good condition, did you use a lot of paint colors that really only appeal to you? Do you have walls that are pumpkin colored, and then do you have black ceilings, or do you have a turquoise trim? Certain people will paint their homes in ways that a lot of buyers are just not going to appreciate, because even if you use a really high-end product and if you hire really great painting contractors and you do a superb job on the painting and it looks like it's totally brand new, the fact is that a lot of buyers, if they walk into your house and you have a distinct style for your paint, many buyers will look at that as a negative rather than as a positive, because they look at it as work that they will have to do. They will say, oh, I don't really think that this color goes with this flooring, or I don't think that this color will go with my bedroom set. So you really want to make sure that when you have paint on your walls and on your trim and everywhere else in your house, that the painting is of a neutral color. Now, what exactly is a neutral color? Hey, before I go any further, would you do me one favor? Would you mash that subscribe button right there and subscribe to my YouTube channel? And don't forget to click that little bell to make sure that you get a notification every time I put up a brand new, fun, fact-filled video, kind of like this one. Well, the neutralist color of all is good old-fashioned white. So white paint is a very popular choice when people go to sell their homes. But when you go to the paint store to buy white, you will see that there's actually many, many shades of white. And the question always comes up, what shade of white should I get for my house? But then a lot of other people will say, well, you shouldn't really do white, you should really do gray paint. Now, gray was a very, very popular color for, it seems like the past 5 or so years, there's so many homes that were done in gray. But even when it comes to the family of gray, there are many different colors of gray. All grays are not created equal, and all whites are not created equal. And nowadays, here in 2025, when I'm recording this, a lot of people are starting to say, well, earth tones are in. So a lot of people are saying, well, maybe I should paint my home light beige. And I would say to that, probably maybe not exactly beige, because a buyer is thinking for themselves, what is my furniture going to look like in this house? And you know what? White goes with everything. There's not a color or a piece of furniture out there, there's no window coverings that white really does not go with. But if you do feel that you want to have something that is a bit warmer than a white, then these days in 2025, it would be much more on point to be using a shade of white that does have some beige undertones in it. Now, obviously, I haven't seen your house, so I can't make a specific recommendation as to what color of white that you might want to use, or what shade of gray perhaps would look best on your walls, how you should tinge it. Should it be tinged with beige, or should it be tinged with green or blue? But I think that what you should do is you should look, first of all, in your kitchen at your existing cabinetry. And the question is, what color paint would go good with my cabinetry? So if you have like a traditional oak cabinetry, which many people have, that darker oak from like the 1980s, I would suggest that probably putting a gray color anywhere near cabinetry like that would probably be a really bad idea. It just wouldn't match very well. And then I want you to look down and see the flooring. What is the flooring like? You also want to make sure that the flooring does not in any way contrast negatively with whatever paint that you're going to use on your walls. Make sure that there is a sense of harmony, a sense of balance between the other major surfaces in the room, like the floors and the cabinetry, and the color of paint that you do choose. So if you want a pro tip, go and look at homes which have sold in your neighborhood, in your home's price range. So don't look at the next town over. Don't look at homes which cost twice as much as your home does. Go and look at the homes which have recently sold in your neighborhood, and homes which sold quickly and for a high price, and see what they chose for their paint colors. I think that probably a lot of the time you're going to find that these colors were pretty neutral, fairly muted. A lot of times they're going to be white or perhaps a very light gray. I don't think that you're going to see a lot of houses that had really big, bold color choices, because those tend not to get the kind of buyer interest that a more neutral colored scheme is going to have. Now, of course, when you go down to the paint store, you will find there is an absolute blizzard of painting choices. How is that going to look on your walls? It's really hard to tell when you just put a little test strip on your wall. There are actually companies out there, just Google it, which sell these peel and stick paint samples, and they might be that kind of size, pretty big, and then you can get a better idea what that color is going to look like on your wall, and you can try putting them in different locations and seeing how they look at different times of night or day, and with electric light, without electric light. And then before you paint, obviously remove them. So that can help you get an idea for what is going to look like on your wall. And again, you want to make sure that you are looking at your wall at the time of day that buyers are going to be looking at your wall. So most buyers are going to be coming through your house sometime in the mid-afternoon to early evening. So just bear that in mind when you are looking at paint colors. And also, you always want to remember that the best light is natural light. So if you have to choose, should I look at my paint in natural light or electric light? I'm going to say you're going to want to choose to see it as it would be with natural light on the walls. Now, one big question that comes up is, what kind of sheen should you use? Well, I'm a big fan of eggshell. It's basically like a really, really light glossy paint. It's one up from flat. I don't really like flat paint very much. It doesn't really reflect light at all. The eggshell will have like a little bit of sheen. It'll bounce the light off a little bit more and make the room look a little brighter without actually looking shiny. You can try like a satin sheen for kitchens and bathrooms. That might be a little bit better than using a semi-gloss. I think in the olden days, people would have used a lot of semi-gloss in these rooms, but today I think satin sheen is really ideal for kitchens and bathrooms. And of course, when it comes to trim, obviously you're going to want to use semi-gloss on there. Semi-gloss is pretty durable, and it's really more resistant to scuffs and dirt, and it tends to clean off much easier than, say, satin or an eggshell. So go with a semi-gloss on the trim and the doors. Now, people are going to obviously ask, well, what color should I put on the trim pieces on the doors? And my answer to that is, actually, in most cases, I believe you're going to want to have a very similar color to what you're putting on the walls. Just the fact that you are using that shiny semi-gloss is already going to set off the trim quite a bit. So I would suggest using a slightly darker tint of whatever you're using on the walls. I just find that it gives the best look overall without making buyers think, oh my goodness, I have to repaint right before I move into the house. And that's something you definitely don't want buyers to think. One of the biggest mistakes that I find that sellers make when they're preparing their home for sale and they're choosing the paint is they try to think about what buyers are going to like. And that is really, really hard, which is why I oftentimes tell sellers, don't do a lot of upgrades to your home and try to guess what buyers are going to like. What tile are they going to like? What flooring are they going to like? What window treatments? What stone will they like for the countertops, or for what kind of pavers would they like for the backyard? Trying to get inside the buyer's head and think what the buyer would like, the buyer who's going to pay you the most amount of money. That is a tough task, because obviously buyers are fickle and they oftentimes don't even know themselves what they would like to see in your particular house in many or even most cases. So again, I think the goal here is do no harm. Don't do anything which is likely to dissuade some buyers because you have gotten a little bit too avant-garde with your paint choices. Just resist temptation and stick to those basic neutral colors that very few people have any kind of a strong objection to. Also, I have some really good tips on things that you should definitely not do. First on the list is do not use touch-up paint. I hate the way touch-up paint looks. Buyers hate the way that it looks. Nothing says lipstick on a pig more than touch-up paint. First of all, try using a magic eraser. They're really cheap, and see if you just can't clean off that section of wall. And if you can't clean it up to the point where it's perfect, it's going to look a lot better than if you dab or touch-up paint on your wall. So if it still looks terrible, I mean, if you're still not happy with it, do not succumb to temptation. Paint the whole entire room if it really looks that bad. Number 2 on my list is do not paint over any natural wood. So if you have like those old 1980s cabinets that I was talking about, please do not paint over those cabinets. It looks absolutely terrible. I would say just work with the natural wood. If you are worried about how the wood looks, just get some of that Murphy's wood soap, or there are some other wood products out there that will make those cabinets sort of come to life again. They might not look perfect, but they're going to look a hell of a lot better than if you put paint on those cabinets. When you put paint on those cabinets, everybody knows exactly what you're doing, and in many cases buyers are going to think, oh my god, I have to rip those cabinets out. Whereas if you just keep like a nice natural looking wood, hey man, your house is 40 or 50 years old after all. Buyers might actually just be okay living with that. But painting over wood cabinets, it just turns off so many buyers. The same thing with those wood handrails or wood trim. A lot of times people are tempted to paint over this wood surfaces on your house, and my advice is just make the wood look the best it can. It usually looks pretty good anyway. Just choose a paint color that's going to harmonize with that wood rather than trying to hide the fact that you have the wood to begin with. And here's another thing not to do. Do not do a bad job with your painting. I've been to so many places where the painting was obviously done by somebody who did not know what the hell they were doing, and it just looks terrible. It looks like you are just trying to trick somebody into seeing value when there is no real value in the work that you have done. Maybe they think that you're trying to hide a water stain or mold or something like that. That's the kind of questions that come into buyers' minds when they see like a really bad paint job. They don't think quality, I want to pay more for this. They think, oh my goodness, what's going on here? What are they hiding? What other maintenance issues are there on this property that I'm not really aware of because of the way this paint was sloppily and unprofessionally applied? So if you're going to paint your house, you could do it yourself if you're a good painter, if you're going to do a good job. And if you are not a good painter, think again. Really, almost no paint is better than a bad paint job. And my last thing not to do is do not paint your house if it's not going to return any value to you when you go and sell your house. There's many houses that really can't benefit from any kind of paint whatsoever. It could be that you're in a really strong market, like say the Bay Area, and it could be that you have the kind of house where when the buyer closes on it, they're going to be doing a whole house renovation anyway. They're not going to care very much about your paint job whatsoever because they're going to be doing a lot of heavy work in the property, and they will be choosing their own custom paint. So just know your market and really understand whether or not it would be worth spending that $5, $10, $15, $20, $30,000 or more sometimes doing that work on the property before you put it up for sale. All right, well, that's all I have for this video. I hope you did enjoy watching it, and if by any slim chance you did, you might also enjoy some of these videos over here. These are some of the most popular videos here on my YouTube channel, so please take a look. All right, thanks again for watching, and please stay tuned.